In my previous life, I fought fiercely for custody of my daughter. I walked away from the marriage with almost nothing, leaving the majority of our assets with my ex-husband. I was terrified that if she stayed with him, she would end up with a stepmother and then a stepfather too. I poured all my energy and effort into raising her, ensuring she got into a prestigious university. But in the end, she betrayed me, taking every last bit of my wealth and giving it to her father. I fell seriously ill, with no money for treatment, and I died bitter and full of regret. When I woke up again, I found myself back in the courtroom, exactly where I had been during our divorce trial. Just as the judge was about to issue the ruling, I suddenly stood up and shouted, "I relinquish custody." Chapter 1. Having just recovered from the excruciating pain of death, I immediately presented my demands to the judge. I request a fair division of assets with Jack Thompson and wish to relinquish custody of our daughter, Emily Thompson. My words left everyone in the courtroom stunned. Jack Thompson, now panicked, retorted, "But we agreed. You take Emily, and I give you the 2-bedroom house in the school district." At the mention of this, my anger flared. In my previous life, I had pleaded with Jack Thompson in every possible way to secure custody of our daughter, even willing to walk away from the marriage with nothing. After the divorce, life had been tough. I scrimped and saved to provide Emily with expensive tutoring and enrichment classes, ensuring she had a balanced diet while I ate leftovers. In the end, my health collapsed, and I ended up in the ICU before I even turned 40. The house was my premarital property. The 1.4 square meter 3-bedroom house we bought after marriage, the $40,000 car we bought last year, and your salary over the years are all marital assets. I demand a fair redistribution. My words rang out clearly, reverberating throughout the courtroom. In the end, the judge adjourned the case for a second hearing. Outside the courtroom, Jack grabbed my arm, his face red with anger. "Elizabeth White, I advise you not to come after my car or house. At most, I'll give you some child support. And you still have to take care of Emily. You're her mother. If you don't, who will?" I pulled my arm away from him in disgust. "Is Emily the sole responsibility of mine? You've enjoyed the benefits of this family for so many years, and now it's time for you to contribute. Emily was in middle school, and I took care of all her needs. Jack would at most come home after work to say a few encouraging words or buy her a cake on her birthday, playing games with her to relax. But despite this, Emily thought her father worked hard and cared deeply for her. And I, the one who did everything at home, was seen as overly controlling. In Emily's words, "You're just a heartless machine, always trying to control me." I had enough of being the villain. Let them enjoy their father-daughter bond. My priority now was to hire a good lawyer to fight for what I was rightfully owed. I didn't want more than my fair share, but I wouldn't let anyone take what belonged to me. Chapter 2. After discussing with my lawyer, I didn't rush home to cook. Instead, I let Emily eat out and go straight to school. In the past, I always thought outside food was unhealthy and insisted on preparing nutritious meals for her. Emily had once said, "All my classmates have pocket money to buy snacks, but I have to come home for meals." Since that was the case, I decided not to bother cooking anymore. Let her enjoy her snacks. I booked a spa massage for myself to relax. Counting both this life and my previous one, it had been over 20 years since I last treated myself to something like this. The massage was skilled, and I felt so relaxed that I was almost about to drift off to sleep. Then, the phone rang at the most inopportune time. Looking at the caller ID, it was Helen Thompson, my overbearing, unreasonable mother-in-law. I answered the call, and an abrasive voice immediately came through. "Elizabeth White, you shameless woman, how dare you covet my son's money? You can't even bear a son, don't work and live off us. Now you want the car and house my son bought? Dream on." Despite her age, the old lady's voice was loud and strong. "Oh, take it easy. Don't get too worked up. You might end up dying from the stress and blame me for murder. You dare curse me?" The old lady was so furious she could barely get her words out, and even the masseuse couldn't help but laugh. "Don't worry, I don't want it all, just half. If you really want a son, go have one yourself. Don't bother me. Maybe, if you accumulate some good karma, you'll get your wish." More curses came through the phone, and I quickly hung up, turning the phone to silent. The massage gave me a thumbs up. "That was your mother-in-law, right? You're amazing. I wouldn't dare talk to mine like that." I closed my eyes and chuckled. After going through life and death, I realized that societal chains are all self-imposed. Instead of getting upset, it's better to go wild and leave no room for others. Chapter 3. Helen Thompson had always been overbearing, scolding me the moment she laid eyes on me, while Jack would merely step in to smooth things over, muttering something about how hard his mother's life had been. As though I had it easy being cursed for not bearing a son. But Helen had one thing right: I didn't have a job. When Emily was born frail and sickly, I made the decision to quit my job as a marketing manager to take better care of her. A decade passed, and I poured every ounce of myself into raising her. As a result, after the last divorce, I struggled. I juggled taking care of Emily while working in a restaurant, washing dishes and scrubbing floors for hours on end. This time though, I wouldn't let myself remain so passive. With only a month left until the second hearing, I had to find a job. I went to interviews every single day, barely spending any time at home. After nearly a month, Emily seemed like a different person. Her school uniform was wrinkled, her face dull, with acne covering her once smooth skin. When I walked in, she immediately started complaining. "Mom, you're never home, and when you are, you do nothing. Why can't you just apologize to Dad? He wouldn't have looked for another woman if you took care of yourself. You're looking like some old hag." I was taken aback, and any shred of sympathy I had for her vanished in an instant. So she knew about her father's cheating and still had the nerve to blame me? I swallowed the words I wanted to say about cooking for her, treating her acne, and being there for her, instead turning cold. "Is it my fault your dad cheated? If not yours, then whose? If you could have kept his heart, he wouldn't have strayed. Now you two are divorcing, and I'm the one stuck with you." Emily's words struck deep. No wonder, in my past life, she always ran back to her father. To her, staying with me was nothing but a punishment. Then go live with him. If being with me is such a burden. I slammed the door to my bedroom and shut her out completely. In this world, relying on anyone else was a mistake. Even blood ties could be broken when self-interest came into play. Chapter 4. At the second hearing, my lawyer presented all of the marital assets and demanded they be divided equally. Jack argued that since I hadn't worked since Emily was born, all of the money he had earned was his. But who says caring for a child and managing a household isn't work? The law protects every woman who contributes to her family, and I was entitled to my fair share of the assets. As for Emily, although I had given up custody, Jack also relinquished his rights. In the end, the judge ruled that since Emily was still a minor and a girl, she would be better off living with her mother. Jack was ordered to pay $1,800 a month in child support until Emily turned 18. I wasn't surprised by this outcome. I had expected it. Helen, with her old-fashioned belief that boys were worth more than girls, must have egged her son on to fight for the assets and abandon custody. To her, a daughter was nothing more than a burden, a stain on the family name. The irony came when, after the ruling, Emily clung to Jack, refusing to let go. "Daddy, please don't leave me. I don't want to stay with Mom." I couldn't help but sneer at the father-daughter drama playing out before me. Jack bent down and whispered something in Emily's ear, and suddenly she stopped crying. Looking up at him, she said, "Let's make a pinky promise." Chapter 5. On moving day, Emily surprised me by not throwing a tantrum as I had feared. She packed her things without a word, then asked, "When are we leaving?" I remained composed. No rush. It wasn't until I got a message confirming the money transfer that I called the moving company to take our things to my small two-bedroom apartment. That's right, I didn't take the car or the house. I had Jack convert them into cash at market value. If he wouldn't give me the money, I wasn't going anywhere. I knew his new girlfriend was itching to move in. That woman even had a son, trying to latch onto Jack as an easy, ready-made father. She had been endlessly sweet to him, flattering him to the point that he was completely enchanted. The new place was a cramped, old apartment with over 20 years of wear and tear. As soon as we entered, Emily's face fell. She looked around and pouted. "How can we live in this dump? Can't we buy a new place with the money Dad gave you?" I sighed inwardly. "Do you think you're a trust fund kid? Houses aren't bought on a whim. If you don't like it, clean it yourself." Emily didn't respond. She stormed off to her room, slamming the door behind her. I was too exhausted to deal with it and called a cleaning service to get the place in shape. In my past life, I had been the dutiful, frugal housewife, saving every penny and getting nothing in return. This time, I was living for myself. The $120,000 from the divorce, I spent $10,000 on a car, and I still had plans for the rest. Chapter 6. After a month of relentless job hunting, I came to a harsh realization. At my age, with a 10-year gap in my work history, finding a job that suited me was almost impossible. If that was the case, then why not start my own business? I could become my own boss, and in doing so, I could create opportunities for other women. As the standard of living rose, more and more women were eager to spend on beauty and wellness. In my previous life, I had worked as a cleaner in a beauty salon, and although I wasn't directly involved in the operations, I gained some insight into the industry. This time, I decided to open a beauty and wellness center. The services would include facial treatments and body wellness programs. For several days, I had been negotiating with suppliers for the right products. I skipped dinner every night, coming home as late as p.m. One night, I arrived to find that the door wouldn't open. It was clearly locked from the inside. "Emily, open the door." I knocked for 5 minutes, but there was no response. Frustrated, I raised my voice. "If you don't open this door, I'll call someone to break it down." A slow, defiant voice came from the other side. "You're always out so late, never cooking for your child. Who knows if you're doing something shady, bringing germs home?" My blood boiled. "Who taught you to say these things? Where did you learn to talk like that?" I immediately called a locksmith to open the door and pulled Emily out of her room. "I'm going to fulfill my legal obligation to take care of you until you're 18. I don't know who has twisted your mind like this, but if you disrespect me again, I won't be polite. I'll consider you as good as dead to me." Emily was clearly shaken by my tone, and she cried out, "I hate you. You're not fit to be my mother. Aunt Summer is so much better. No wonder Dad left you." Ah, so it was that woman, the mistress. I let go of her and headed to the bathroom for a hot shower. "Fine then. After you turn 18, you can go live with them." Chapter 7. The opening of my new store kept me busy from dawn till dusk. One afternoon, 2 familiar faces walked through the door. Helen, with her sharp eyes, immediately shouted, "I thought you'd be doing something worthwhile after leaving my son, but look at you now, you're just here cleaning." The staff heard the commotion and rushed to explain, but I silently gestured for them to hold off. "I'm not as lucky as you, having a son who earns so much. But this is a high-end store, and I'm afraid you might not be able to afford it. I suggest you look for somewhere else." I was always direct. If I was going to charge someone, I'd do it openly. Helen's arrogance only grew. "You can't afford it as a cleaner, but our Summer is going to give the Thompson family a son. We can afford anything, no matter how expensive." The old woman's voice oozed pride, and Summer, standing beside her, feigned hesitation. "Mom, I think this place might be too expensive. It could cost tens of thousands. Maybe we should try another place." Helen waved her off. "Nonsense. If Summer gives us a grandson, she'll be a hero in the family. No matter the cost, we can afford it. Wait here, I'll call Jack for the money." Helen pulled out her phone and dialed Jack. I nodded to the staff. "Ma'am, our VIP package is only $58,888. If you both come together, we can give you a $10,000 discount. That brings it down to just $98,888. Helen hesitated, and I seized the opportunity to add. I told you it's high-end. Let's not pretend to be something we're not. You'd probably be better off looking for somewhere more suited to your budget. Before I could finish, Helen was already shouting into the phone, successfully persuading Jack to transfer the money to the store. I smiled, enjoying the moment. I loved generous customers even if they were my former in-laws. Lily, please show our guests to the private room, I said with a cheerful smile. Helen wasn't having it. Stop pretending to be the boss. You're just a cleaner. Chapter 8. I smiled slightly. Who says a cleaner can't be a boss? And having a son depends on the man. If Summer's previous husband had a son, it means he was capable. Your son, on the other hand, might not be. I turned and walked into the manager's office, shutting out her string of curses. Work kept me busy, so I hired a housekeeper to help with the cleaning and to look after Emily. Although I was disappointed in her, I still had a duty to support her. Unexpectedly, Emily was not happy about it. You have money to hire a housekeeper, but you can't give me money? All my classmates have the latest phones. Emily fiddled with her phone without looking up. This phone was a gift from Jack. In my previous life, I had confiscated it, fearing it would affect her studies, and scolded her. She cried for days and ignored me. This time, I was smarter. Sure, your dad gives you $1,800 a month, and I'll match it. You can do whatever you want with it. Really? Emily looked skeptical but quickly held out her hand for the money. I raised an eyebrow. The money's been transferred. I've fulfilled my duty. Don't come to me for anything else. But that's not fair. You're my mom. Our school is organizing a trip to Antarctica to see the aurora. Can you sign me up? Emily's tone was entitled. In my previous life, I had indeed signed her up for such a trip, fearing she would feel left out. I used all my savings and even borrowed money to pay for it. While she enjoyed the aurora, I worked extra jobs, handing out flyers and dressing up as a mascot, often skipping meals. When she returned, she bragged about the trip to her friends and her father, not caring about my struggles. I had spoiled her, raising an ungrateful child. The store's cash flow is tight right now. All the money is tied up in inventory. Ask your dad. He has money for his new wife's beauty treatments, he should have some for you. You're useless. I knew living with you would be miserable. Emily pouted and immediately called her father. After a brief conversation, she reluctantly handed me the phone. Elizabeth, can't you use some of the money you got from the divorce to sign her up? I just paid for my stepson's trip, and I don't have enough right now. You have money for them but not for your own daughter? I've never seen someone so eager to be a stepfather. Why do you have to be so unpleasant? We're just trying to bond. Just sign her up. Jack hung up abruptly. I handed the phone back to Emily. Your dad said he doesn't have the money. If you want to go, you can work at my store during the summer. I'll pay you. Emily snatched the phone and pushed me aside. I won't work for you. You just don't want me to be happy. Fine by me. I was happy to have peace and quiet, abandoning the idea of offering her a summer job for extra cash. Chapter 9. The business was doing well and I hired more staff. Most of them were stay-at-home moms who wanted to earn their own money after their kids grew up. I hired a professional trainer to teach them skills, hoping they could gain expertise. Emily didn't go to Antarctica but posted photos on social media. She, Jack, and Summer were at some unknown scenic spot. Emily leaned against Summer, looking like mother and daughter. The caption read, Dad and Aunt Summer took me out. I wish Aunt Summer were my mom. Followed by a crying emoji. Summer commented, Emily is like my own daughter. Emily replied, Love you, Mom. What a happy family. I wished them well. Summer was smart, sending her own son to Antarctica while taking Emily on a budget trip. After the trip, Emily looked down on me even more. She would often say, "Aunt Summer bought me a new bag. Aunt Summer took me for a manicure. Aunt Summer says I look like her." I was sick of hearing it. Flattery was indeed a way to destroy someone. But Emily was still my daughter. I suggested sending her to a tutoring class, offering to pay $800 per session. Middle school is crucial. Getting into a good high school and then college is the goal. You just want me to get good grades to show off. Stop pretending. If you don't want to go, fine. It saves me money. You're obsessed with money. What's the point of having money without love? Emily stormed out, probably to find her beloved Aunt Summer. She didn't know that in my previous life, I gave her all my love, only to end up dying alone and unnoticed. Chapter 10. Emily's grades weren't great. In my previous life, I had scrimped and saved to send her to tutoring, supervising her studies to get her into a decent university. This time, she spent all her time on her phone, not understanding the lessons even after multiple explanations. I thought she would realize her shortcomings and work harder. But she blamed the tutors, saying they were incompetent, never admitting her own faults. She even sarcastically said, "You're making so much money now. Why do I need to study? I'll just inherit your business." I was shocked, sensing something was wrong. Was she already eyeing my assets? Although I suffered after the divorce, I didn't expect to die before 40 from organ failure. Could it be that Emily had intentionally harmed me for my assets? After her high school exams, she suddenly became considerate, taking over the household chores. A month later, I was hospitalized. My savings of $50,000 were taken by Emily, who disappeared with Jack. I had no money for treatment, and the house was sold for her education. I lay in a rented room, unable to even drink water. Meanwhile, Emily was enjoying a hot pot with Jack and his new family, as seen on social media. I broke into a cold sweat and immediately scheduled a full medical checkup. At the hospital, I saw Summer entering the gynecology department. I had heard the doctor specialized in infertility. It seemed Summer was trying hard to give Jack a son. After a thorough checkup, the doctor assured me I was healthy, just needed to maintain a good mood and diet. I felt relieved. Jack hadn't paid child support for months. I called him, and he shamelessly said, "The custody is with you. Why are you asking me for money? I can barely manage myself, let alone you two. A girl just needs to be fed. Why spend so much?" I had no choice but to tell Emily. "Your dad hasn't paid child support for months. Your allowance will be halved." "What? That's impossible. Dad would never abandon me." Emily didn't believe me and took out her phone to call him. Seeing me still standing there, she put the phone away and said, "I'll have dinner at Dad's tonight." "Fine, I'm busy tonight anyway. By the way, didn't you say your phone was slow? I bought a new one for you." I placed the latest model on the table. Emily eyed me warily. "You're being too nice." But she couldn't resist the new phone and started playing with it. Of course, I wasn't being nice. I had installed a hidden listening app on the phone. If there was no conspiracy, I would delete it. But if they were plotting against me, I wouldn't hesitate. Chapter 11. The phone captured Emily's excited voice. "Dad, Summer, I missed you." Summer's voice followed. "Emily, you're just in time for dinner. Wow, it looks delicious. Dad, I want to live with you. Mom is always busy and doesn't care about me. You have no idea how I've been living." Poor Emily. Jack played the good guy. "Dad misses you too, but I've been out of work and Aunt Summer isn't well. Ray needs to go to school. We're struggling." I never knew Jack was such a good actor, but hearing about his unemployment made me secretly happy. "Dad, what should I do? Don't you want me anymore?" Emily sounded desperate. "Of course not." Summer interjected. "Your dad talks about you all the time, but the situation. Emily, do you remember our agreement? Yes, she only has me. All her assets will be mine." So there was a scheme. No wonder Emily didn't make a fuss and came back with me. Take this and put it in her food. Then you can live with us, sweetheart. Jack's voice was chilling. My heart sank. Would Emily really harm me? Will Mom die if she eats this? Emily's voice trembled. Don't worry, Emily. Aunt Summer loves you. Summer's soothing voice calmed her. I heard a soft, okay. And they resumed their cheerful conversation. That night, Emily returned without a word and went straight to bed. The next morning, I heard noises from the kitchen. Emily brought me a bowl of porridge, smiling sweetly. Mom, you work so hard. I made you breakfast. I took a sip, finding it overly sweet. She must have added the entire packet. Mom, eat more. I'm off to school. Emily grabbed her bag and ran out. I set the bowl down and pulled out the packet I had replaced with sugar. A medical test confirmed the powder was thallium, a lethal dose. The police interviewed Emily at school, and she was terrified, confessing everything about Jack and Summer. The dose was enough for a criminal charge, but Emily was a minor and was sent to a juvenile detention center. Jack was charged with illegal purchase of a toxic substance and incitement of a minor, receiving a prison sentence. Summer distanced herself, fearing it would affect her son's future, and demanded a divorce. Helen came to my store, shouting for Jack's release. Your son broke the law. If you want him out, talk to the police. I know you set him up. If you don't get him out, I'll ruin your business. Helen sat on the floor, wailing. Help! My evil daughter-in-law is ungrateful, neglects her child, and conspires with a lover to harm her husband. I didn't indulge her, opening my phone to live stream. Come to our store for live drama. More details and a free shoulder massage for viewers. The live stream attracted many viewers, and business boomed. Helen, hoarse from shouting, cursed. Isn't anyone going to offer me water? Chapter 12. I thought it was over, but the juvenile center called, saying Emily was crying and asking to see me. I expected insincere apologies and pleas for release, so I was reluctant to go. But they called daily, saying Emily had self-harmed, urging me to visit. I decided to go, if only to sever our ties. Emily looked like she had seen a lifeline, rushing to me. Mom, you're alive. Please save me. I was wrong. Her voice trembled, eyes filled with fear and helplessness beyond her years. I am alive. Are you disappointed? I went to the rental house, and they said you were dead. I had indeed died, but in my previous life. Could Emily have? I was tortured and escaped, but you weren't there. I was afraid of being caught again, so I drank poison. When I woke up, I was here. Are you the Emily from my previous life? Didn't you go to your dad? Who tortured you? Had something happened after my death? Emily's story revealed the truth. After moving in with Jack, Summer took her bank card. Summer's true nature emerged, and Jack, unemployed, had no say at home, constantly talking about having a son. Emily found Summer's medical report, showing she was infertile, and told Helen. Helen confronted Summer, but Summer's son, Ray, defended his mother, injuring Helen. Jack was too afraid to stand up to Ray, who was now an adult. Summer abused Emily, tearing up her college acceptance letter, saying Ray couldn't get into such a good school, so Emily couldn't go either. Eventually, Summer and Jack forced Emily to marry a violent man for a dowry. Emily was abused and tried to escape, but Jack always sent her back. After a severe beating, Emily attacked her husband with a broken bottle and fled, seeking me. But I was already dead, my body undiscovered for days. Why did you drink poison? You could have escaped to another city. I found out I was pregnant. I couldn't bear to bring his child into the world. I wanted to die. Mom, I missed you. I wish you were there to control me. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She only realized my value after suffering. Don't forget, you tried to poison me in this life. Dad and Summer kept saying you didn't love me, only wanted me for support. They said if I got the money, we could live together. You're old enough to know better. I stood to leave and Emily grabbed me. Mom, don't leave me. I pity your past, but you reap what you sow. Reflect on your actions here. I pushed her hand away and left without looking back. Chapter 13. My business thrived, and I opened a second store, managed by the masseuse who had treated me. She was not only skilled but also a capable manager. With more income, she gained respect at home, and her husband became more attentive. Jack was sentenced to 3 years. Summer, fearing a criminal record would affect her son, demanded a divorce. Jack refused, so Summer revealed her infertility. Helen, learning the truth, demanded Summer return the money spent over the years. They fought, and Ray, coming home from school, saw his mother being attacked. Ray, still a middle schooler, hit Helen with a metal rod, sending her to the ICU. She didn't survive long. Despite being a minor, Ray's actions were severe, and he was sentenced to 3 years. Father and son ended up in prison, and Summer became a regular visitor. Emily, released from the juvenile center, didn't contact me but left a handwritten letter with my staff. Mom, I hope this letter finds you well. I know I've done many wrong things and don't expect your forgiveness. I've thought a lot during this time. A mother's love is contradictory, wanting her child to be happy but also fearing she can't provide a good future. So, she gives her all, never stingy with care, strict with studies, enduring hardship for her child's sake. I'm not a smart child, so I never understood your intentions. I always sought my father's love, never truly receiving it, while neglecting the love you gave me. When I found out I was pregnant, I wanted to keep the baby. But I knew I wasn't fit to be a mother, and the father was terrible. Bringing the baby into the world would be cruel. I don't regret drinking the poison. Not letting the baby be born was my way of protecting it. Mom, I'm glad to see you're doing well. I'm starting over too. In my previous life, I didn't go to college. This time, I'll study hard and live my own life. Take care. Your daughter, Emily. I framed Emily's letter. Life goes on, and I will live well. I hope she does too.